Okay. Hi everyone. So welcome back to another session. In this session, we are going to create some additional APIs for some other modules. So basically this was our syllabus, not syllabus. This is our requirements for our application where we have created the API login page, end-to-end development for login page so far. Now I wanted to create some additional web APIs. So basically we are having some other modules like courses, batches, trainers, students. Okay. So what we will do, we will create some APIs for courses. So from the UI front end, we should be able to create the courses. We should be able to see the list of courses, and then obviously delete and edit operation should be there. So basically I'll need to create CRUD APIs for courses module. Okay, CRUD means create, read, update, and delete. So let's create few APIs for courses module. Let's check our database. Okay, now see in the API project we are having controllers folder. Here we are having account controller class. Okay, so basically this account controller class we had created in order to create a web API for login. Okay, and this web API we have already created. Now, if you see the structure of our application, every API should have one controller. Okay. And then whatever business logic we wanted to write, we used to write into the service. So every controller will have its own service. So if I go to the service here, you will see the API functions. Okay. So this is your interface, and we should have at least one implement for each and every interface. So let's click here, press Control button and F12 button. Okay, it will take you the implementation of that method. Okay, once you go to the implementation, there is a account service class. So every interface, I account service interface will have its own implementation. In this account service, we will basically have the business logic, right? And then this business logic we will write here, and there should be one repository. So why we need the repository? The repository is for database operation for this kind of entity. Every entity will have its own service, controller, and repository as well. So in account repository, we'll basically have the database related things. So if you go to the get login details interface, this is your I account repository, and this repository will have its own implementation. So control F12, you will get to the definition of that. And then in this repository, account repository, basically we will have the DB context object. What is DB context object? As I told you, we are using entity framework code first approach. Okay, so code first approach means whatever changes you will do inside the source code, those will get applied to your database. So you don't have to even open your database, create the tables, create the database, nothing. Okay, it will automatically create the database table and columns for you. Okay, now this DB context is the main class where you will find the replica of your database. This is your database so far. Okay, you can see TBL user is there, TBL login details is there. Only two tables we have created. Now, if you want to see what are all columns available in the TBL user, you have to click click on the user entity. So this is your user POCO class. Okay, in the C sharp, whatever table structure we will have, we will need to create such kind of POCO class. POCO class can have the properties like this and can have getter and setter methods. Okay, like this. So this is your POCO class. We can also call it as a model, user model class. Okay, so if you have ID column there, if you want one ID column along with the primary key, then you will have to create one property which will have ID keyword in it. Return type should be integer. This will become your primary key. You want to see? Let's open the SSMS. So SSMS is basically a tool which will help you to see the database structure, table structure, column structure, everything. So you can see the database and open your data as well, and also write the queries to that. So let's open that. Meanwhile, let's go back. Okay, so this is your model class back. This is your database class. We can call it as a DB context. Basically, this class will help you to communicate with the database. Okay, while communicating with the database, we should have the respective tables repository. So this is your account repository, right? So in the account repository, you will have the database related things as I mentioned. This is your Lambda expression. Okay. Lambda expression means by using the Lambda expression, we can make the database queries. This is my database query in a form of object oriented concept. Okay. So if you are a very good object programmer by using the object oriented concept, then you can write your SQL queries by using the Lambda expression. You don't have to remember SQL syntaxes. Okay. So once you make this Lambda expression, you will get some result into DB record object. Okay. You can return that as a part of response of this method. Go back. This method we have called from service, right? Account service. This is your account service. We have called it from here. Now, whatever data we got in the DB user object, we just added some business logic in order to return the respective response. If it is null, then invalid credential. If it is not null, then success true, like that. So this is your business logic. That's why I have added that into the account service class. Now, if I go back, you will go to the controller. So basically controller is one of the entry point of your API call. Same like in the console application, we are having program.cs file and main method is the entry point. Now in the API project, controller will be your entry point for your APIs. Okay. And every controller will have some action method. This is your action method. Okay. And this action method is nothing but your API method. So let's say I wanted to call login API. So this is your entry point method of your login API, which is available inside the account controller. Now I wanted to create some APIs for courses module. Now, first of all, we need to create one courses table in our database. So this is our database structure. We have created login details, user table, and now I wanted to create this courses table. Okay, how to create that table? Let me check the databases first. This is my SSMS tool. SSMS means SQL Server Management Studio. Now, this is my database, Talent to Track DB, where I will see whether it is correct or not. You will get one connection string into the app settings.json file. This is your configuration file of your .NET Core project. If I double click on that, then you will see one default connection string here where I have mentioned the server name is my local computer, database name is my talent to track DB. There is no username and password, so that's why no username password here. And these two for handling calling the database over untrusted connection. Untrusted means non-HTTPS. Okay, let's close it. Now our next step is create the courses table. If you see in the talent to track DB, if I open tables, there is no courses table available. Okay, we only have user and login detail, that's it. Okay, now let's create courses table. How to create that? First of all, go to your project. Okay, where is the database file? Let's close everything. You should also know through the solution explorer. Okay, where I can find the database file. So it is available inside DAO DB context. Okay, this is my database file. Before adding any table here, I should have that class available, right? So we are having login details class. Where is it located? It is located inside common entities. So inside the entity folder, I will have all the tables. So I'm having user table, login table. I wanted to create one more table, call it as courses. So right click, add new class. Okay, here we will give the proper name, that is course, not courses. Okay, we are going to create a class for one entity, not plural. It is course. Okay, and by default it is internal. Let's make it public. The difference between internal and public is if I mark it as internal, then I cannot access this course class outside of common project. I wanted to use that inside the data project, right? DAO layer. Okay, so if I want to use any class from this project to this project, it should be public, not internal. Internal means public across the current assembly, and public means public across the multiple assemblies. Okay, so that is the difference. So let's create it as a public, and first column name is obviously ID, because I wanted to create one primary key which will be auto incremental. So if you mention int as a return type, ID as a field name, it will automatically become your primary key along with the auto incremental functionality. Otherwise, explicitly, you can just mention key attribute like this. If you mention key here, it will become your key, even though your property is not having the ID in it. If property does not have ID keyword, then compiler will get confused which column need to be picked as a primary key. So that's why you will have to provide such kind of annotation. But now in this case, I know my column name is itself ID. If you add this one, if you don't add this one, doesn't matter. This column only will become your primary key. Okay. Now next one is course name. Okay, I'm in the course context, so my uh, property name should not be course name. It should be name, because I'm inside the course class. So obviously this name is for course only. Okay, so let me correct here as well. Okay, same for batch. Next is total fees, right? Every course can have its own fees amount. Why I have added this question mark here? Because string, whatever string we will have in the name can be nullable. Question mark is for nullable. So I wanted to create a new column which will have the name as a value, sorry, name as a display text, and value can be nullable. Okay. Next one is total fees. Okay. So total fees we can mention in the double or decimal is fine. Okay. Let's take double for now. Double ID, name, and total fees. Every course will have its own fees. So that's why this is fees. And next one is duration, created date, updated date. These are our auditing columns. Okay. Duration is maybe 3 months, 4 months, like that. Okay. Duration in days. Okay. So let's say if it is 3 months, then I will mark it as a 90 days, like that. Okay, so we are having these many columns: ID, name, total fees, duration in days. Next columns are like created date, updated date time, and created ID and updated time. Okay, so what happens is every time I create a new entity, I have to create those 4 columns, right? If I go to the users table, you will see there might be those 4 columns available: created date, time, created date. These 4 columns are repeated here, as well as if I go to the login details. Here we do not have that because this is not the master table, but for every master table we will have those 4 auditing columns. So what I'm saying here is what we can do, what I'm suggesting here is we can create one more entity. Okay, I will call it as class base entity. Okay, so base entity means it will have common things. As we all know, we will always have the ID column for all the tables. So this is common across all the tables. Then we'll need to add 4 more entities, right? So these 4 I will remove from here. I will add into the base entity. Now let's see the real-time usage of inheritance. So this base entity class should be inherited into your child classes like this. So if you do that, then you don't have to repeat all these 4 to 5 properties again into your child class. Okay, this is reusability. Okay, this is the first advantage of inheritance. What is that? So it is reusability. So every child class will automatically get an access of your parent class properties or methods. Okay, so this ID, created date time, updated date time, created ID, all these things will be automatically available into the course as well as user. So user also does not have ID and all. So I will remove that, and then we'll just inherit that from the base class, base entity. So this way you don't have to write ID created by, updated by, date and ID. Okay, so those 5 columns you don't have to repeat in every entity class. You just have to inherit that. Now there might be some entities which does not require ID sorry, not ID, but those four other entities, right? Other properties. So in that case, just add whatever column you want to add here and don't inherit this class from your base entity. In that case, this is not a child of your base entity. That's why it will not have those four properties like that. Okay, but most of the table, 90% of our tables will require those four tables, four to five repeated fields. So that's why we have just mark it as a base entity and we have inherited that class into your current table class. Okay, I think we have created a master table for course class, course entity. I just wanted to create this inside our database. So go to your context, DB context, how to create that? You just have to add this entity, add this entry like this. Okay, course. And here mention TBL course. Courses you can mention here now because this is plural. Table can have multiple courses. Okay, that's it. Now you can create the courses table into the database. How to create that? You will have to perform the migration. So go to the tools, click on the NuGet package manager, click on the package manager console. Here, what you can do, you just have to write one command, that is add migration space migration file name courses table. Okay, we can add anything and click on hit on enter. So we have added a migration file. In that we are having a courses table created. Okay. So what it will do, it will first of all build your project. Once it builds successfully, then it will create one file. Okay, in the migrations table, and then you will have to apply those changes to the database. Why it is throwing the exception? Because your target project API does not match with your migration assembly. So we'll have to select this project first and then run this command again. Okay, so this is your Talento track DAO. Go here, run your command again. Okay, now you can see you got one more file, courses table. In that, it has created one migration for you. That is, create a new courses table having all these columns. Okay, ID column is there. These four columns are also got created and primary keys for ID column. That's it. Okay, and if you this is up, like up means if you apply this migration, you will it will create a new courses table. If you remove the migrations, then it will down. Down means it will drop the courses table like that. Now I wanted to apply this migration to my database. How to apply it? Go to the package manager console again and enter update space hyphen database. Enter. Okay, update spelling is wrong. So let me do that again. Update database. That's it. So it will again build the project. Whatever file we have created recently, those changes it will apply to my database. So this is my database. Here you can see I do not have courses table available. Now I will wait for done. It is done. I will go here, right click and refresh. You can see courses table is now created. Is it? Yes. Okay. So in the courses table, you can see all the columns which we just added into the model class: ID, name, total fees, duration in days, created date time, updated date time, created by ID, updated by ID. Okay. Now let's create the CRUD APIs for this entity. How to create CRUD APIs? Go to the API project. Okay. Here, now time for creating a new controller. Okay. Go to the controller, right click, add controller. You can select API controller, actually MVC controller, or let's do one thing. Just copy this controller here and rename it to courses. This is my favorite way to go to avoid any issues. Okay, course controller, courses controller. Okay, let's make it plural. inside this, just rename. Controller name should be courses. Okay, just remove this s. I think it should not be plural. Okay, rename your constructor. This is your constructor. This is your class name. It should be inherited from the controller base class. This is your routing. Okay, routing means this is attribute based routing, where whatever controller name we have mentioned, this is for this course controller. Whatever name we are having for controller will be here in the path, and then action name is for this one, HTTP post name action. So what will be the route for this login? First of all, controller name. Okay, course. So if you add course slash login, so that will be the path for your login API. Now this time I wanted to create a new API for create new course, right? So what will the endpoint? Course slash forward slash create. Okay, now I wanted to first of all initialize this logger by using the course controller. Got that? And now I wanted to create one service, right? We are having I account service. So instead of that, we need I course service, where we are having all these interfaces. Just control click, you will go to the common project. In the common project, we are having services folder. Inside that, we are having all the interfaces available. Okay, so I will create one more interface for that. Why we need interface? Because of the dependency injection. Okay, what is dependency injection? We can create an object of your service classes outside of your controller classes. So that way we will not have any dependency on course controller and course service. Okay, you will get the object outside of your class. So there is both are loosely coupled from each other. So that's why we need the interface. Interface is basically providing the replica of your service classes or repository classes. So by looking at the interface only, you can come to know what are all methods available, what are all operations this service can do. Okay, so let's create one course service. Course service. Open that. In this course service, I wanted to create one method, that is create, and here I wanted to pass one request object. Okay, so request object can be the course entity directly. Okay, or we can create our own if you want. Like I will go into the DTOs account. So I will create another folder, add new folder called at course. Inside this, I will create one class which will have course create course request. Okay, so whatever parameters you want to send for creating a new course, you can just mention them here. Okay, so for creating a new course, I wanted to pass the course object. So course object can have in the UI. So in the from the UI, we can enter the course name, enter the course fees, and enter the course duration, right? So those three things we need to add here. So if I go here, I can only add these three things. So it will go inside your request. Name, total fees, and duration index. Create course request. Now let's go back to your controller, or first of all service. Here your request should have these parameters: course, create course request. Okay, and response. What should we need to return in response? Error message and success message. Okay, if it is got course got created, then we need to return success true, and error message will be your null. Now if you see, this is your login response. Most of the API we need to return these two parameters only. So can we create the generic login response for all the APIs? So that way we don't have to create multiple classes. We can do that. Okay, so how we can do? Here in the DTOs, at the top layer, I will add one more response. I will call it as a base response. Okay, so base response means obviously no. Okay, so base response means obviously these two things, success and error message. That's it. Okay. If I want to return any data, then it should be in object format. Object data. That's it. Okay. I want to return success, error message, and then object data. Let's comment for now. We don't require. But this is your base response. This base response should be inherited into your login response, right? Because in the login response also we are having the same fields. So don't need to write that. Just return like this. Okay, so base response is inherited into the login response. If you have an object of login response, then you can have some additional properties along with these two properties. I just want these two for now. So not going to add any additional properties into the login response, but I will return the base response as a part of courses API. Mean if I create a new course, then it should return only two things: success true, error false. If there is any error, then it will return success false, error true, like that. Okay, let's go back. Now what we did so far, we have created one controller. In that controller, I have created one I account service, no, I course service, right? We have created one interface as well, I course service. This is my course service. I wanted to change this name, and this name. How we can do that? By using the control RR. Okay, here you can just change the name, course, hit enter. You can see this is change. All the references got changed. Okay, here also by using the dependency injection, second parameter, we should get course service, not account service, because we are in a course controller. So here we can just change the name again. This instance and this instance I wanted to change. So I will click here, control RR. Here you can just mention course. Okay, now you can see I got the controller, I got the service, logger object we have initialized. Why we need this logger? Logger we need for logging your exceptions, warning message, or information related things into the text file on the disk. So we definitely require that. So that's why this logger object. Then create is our API name. Same name we should keep for the method name as well to avoid the ambiguity error. Then login request should be renamed as course request, course create request, right? We have created that object, create request. Now it is showing one error. If you add this assembly, course create request, let me check what was that. Create course request. Okay, create course request. This is your request object. Now inside this service, course service, we have created one API, right? One function, called it as a create. So that function we need to call here. That's it. Whatever response you will get, just return it as a base response. Then this error will also go away. Now you can see we have done everything in the controller level. Now let's go to the drill down to the one more step. So we have created one method which is abstract method. There is no definition as of now inside the iCourse service. Now I will need to implement this iCourse service into my services class, services project. This is my service project. Inside this service project, so far I have account service only. So I'll need to create one more service, call it as core service. Okay. And now inside this core service, first of all, rename that, implement this class from core service class. Okay, whatever instructions we got here, that is I'll need to implement this create function. If we don't implement this function into this class, it will throw one exception, that is core service does not implement the interface member create. Meaning if you want to inherit this interface into your current class, you will have to implement all the methods available inside the interface. Okay, let me attach the charger. Okay, now if you want to create service class, we need one repository object. Okay, so first, before implementing the create method, resolve this dependency. First of all, dependency means this service class requires an object of repository class. Okay, now we'll have to create one more interface for repository. So if I click here, go to the common project, common repositories. Here we will have to create one more repository, and then that repository is for courses, iCourse repo. So in this repo also, I will have to create one method. Create. This is my repository name, and same method I'll have to create. Okay. So for create API, we'll have the database related operations into this function. So we have created one interface, called it as a iRepository, that we can add into the service like this. Course repository. Rename this by using the reflection R course repo. Okay. And here you will get the iCourse repository. Obviously this need to be rename again, course repository. And this class should have the constructor with the same name. Now till this line we have resolved the dependency. Dependency means whatever require classes we need to inject to this class, those will come as a constructor injection. So this is your constructor injection. We need to assign that to our member variable. Okay, so this is your member variable, call it as a course repository. We have just initialized that. So far line number 19, it is good. Why it is crying? Because we haven't implemented all the functions available into this interface. There is one function, call it as create. We need to implement this function here, right? How to implement? Like this. Now this error go away. There is no error. Now we have to implement the body part of this method. What is the body part? Body part is very simple. Whatever request we got here, first of all, build the database object. Okay. Response is base response, not login response. Okay. Then we'll return the base response. Here in the course repository, there is a create function. This function requires a parameter called request. Okay. Then once we create, it will return you the base response. Okay. Whatever base response you will get, I don't want to apply any business logic as of now. So just return it as is. No changes. Not even need to create this base response, because we don't want to basically add any business logic, right? We just have to create a new class. Sorry, create a new course. That's it. So that's why this create. Now this create is available inside this iCourse repository. I wanted to implement this create method in the course repository class, where it will be located inside DAO. Okay, inside the DAO we are having repositories. Here we'll need to create final class, last class for this API, that is our course repository, like this. Open that. Once you open, rename it. It requires an object of DB context class. We got that. Here just create the same method name, course repository. Okay, remove the semicolon because I wanted to implement the definition for that method. What will be the definition now? So here create course, right? So our parameter name should be course object. Okay, response should be bool, whether it got created or not. And this method name we need to add into your interface, the signature, and same signature we need to inherit here, and we need to call from here as well. Now let's control Z everything because we require some business logic here. We are in the service class. So course repository dot create, and create object requires an object of table. That table name is nothing but your course. Okay. So let's create an object of course table here. Okay. New course and initialize the properties. First property is I wanted to add name is equal to request dot name, comma, duration in days is equal to request dot duration in days, comma, total fees is equal to request dot total fees, comma, all these property created by, okay, created by id. Here basically if we implement the JWT token authentication, then only you will get to know who has created this entity. For now, I'm just adding 0. Okay. Updated by ID, obviously 0. Created date time, obviously current date time. Date time dot now or today. Now. Now we'll have timing as well. Today will does not have any timing. And updated by is nullable. So I guess let's make it null. Nullable. This is also, this is not nullable. This is nullable. Okay. Why nullable? Because if I create a new entry, it means I haven't updated the entry. In that case, it should be null. If someone updated that entry, then only it will get some values. Updated date, time, and updated by. Okay. But obviously, that should be null. So for now, I will just assign null value for updated by. By default, it will be null only, but for your understanding purpose, I am assigning the null value to them. Okay. So I got name, duration, total fees, created by ID, then updated by ID is null, created date time, updated date time. Why it is crying now? Because it is returning a bool. Okay. It is returning a bool, and we are taking that bool inside the response. So we should take response dot success is equal to create. So let's say while creating an entry, we got some error, then it will return false. Once it returns false, it will get assigned to the success. So success will become false. If success is false, then in UI front end, we will show some error message. Okay. Okay, great. Now go to the create method. So this is your interface and this is your implementation. Where is the implementation? In the course repo. In the course repo, first of all, it should be inherited from the iCourse repository. Okay. In the course repository, here we are having create method. We got the course object. Now I just wanted to add this course object into the database. How to add? Just select db context dot course dot where, not where, courses dot add async course. Okay. And then it will not return anything. Then bool result is equal to db context dot save changes async. Okay, why async? Because it is asynchronous method. I wanted to apply await over there. Await like this, and this should not be async because add method does not do any db operation. It just add a new value into the memory, so it will not take much time. This can be a time consuming task, so that's why I'm using async here. And if we use any async keyword here, async method here, we need to put await here, and then it is crying because of this. That's it. And then I will explain you why I added that. Okay, so you can see the return type of this method is bool, right? And this save changes method returns integer as a return type. You can see here. Okay, save changes method signature. It has this name and return type is int. Int means how many records got affected, how many records got inserted. If this line insert a new course record successfully, then at this line you will get 1. 1 means one record got affected, and that one is greater than 0, it means result true. If this line, while adding a new record, it got some issue, some error, then it will return 0. And if it returns 0, then 0 is not greater than 0, it means false. Then you will get result false. Once you get the result false, obviously we are assigning that false to success, and in the API response you will get the false. Success is equal to false, and if it is false, then in front end we will display the error message. That is the plan. I think we have completed this API. Now it's time for testing. But if you notice, during our development we have changed something into the table classes as well. Let me check what I have changed. If you change anything to your table, you will have to apply those changes to your database first, then only you can work with that API. Okay, I just realized I changed something into user class, right? What we change, we remove this and add it into the base entity. So this change is not affect to the database because eventually we are having the same set of columns. But this course we have added, okay. In the course, any changes happen? No, right? And in base entity, okay. Yeah, this change. Update time, we have make it as a not nullable. This is also not nullable. Means we have changed the schema level changes of your tables. If any changes happen, the schema level means DDL related queries, then you will have to create migrations again. So go to your NuGet package manager console. Here, add one more migration, that is courses table changes. Enter. So it will create another migration file. First of all, it will try to compile your project. Once it got compiled successfully, then it will create one file which will have all the new changes which we just did during the session, and we can review them. Like you can see, updated by ID column will get altered and it will be nullable true. Same for update date, nullable true. Update by ID, nullable true. Okay, we have just made the changes. If we apply this file, then this column will get nullable true. If we de-apply this file, means down, it will get nullable false. So this is the beauty of this migration file. It will automatically identify what changes you have done. And it will apply to your database once you call this command, update database. Now if I go to the database, you can see in the courses table, this is not null, right? Not null, not null. Now if I right click, refresh, open your columns, it is null. It is null. Created time is not null because anyway we will always add that. But updated date time and updated ID can be null. That's why I made it as a null because of the question mark. Very simple. Come back again. Okay. You will get one error. What error? Related to the dependency injection. Let's try to see whether you will get the error or not. I'm running this one. Once you run, you will get the Swagger UI. As we all know, Swagger UI is basically the API contract. You can see all the API contracts there in a form of UI design, and then you can also call some API from the Swagger. But I usually prefers Postman in order to test your APIs. Okay, so let's open your Postman. This is the Postman. Postman is one of the tool which will help you to verify your API changes, test your API changes. You can call the APIs through Postman. Okay, you can also call from the Swagger, but I'm not sure. Personally like the Postman, so that's why. Another benefit of using Postman is, let's say I made any API changes, I and I click on the stop button here. Okay, this one. As soon as I stop this, this browser will get closed. So whatever request payload I have mock here, that will flush out. But if you use Postman, it will remain same here. You can reuse that later as well. Okay, so that's the reason. Now I wanted to call this create API. What is the endpoint? Endpoint is localhost 7050 course/create. This is my endpoint. Okay, API should be post, not get. Let me confirm one more time. If I by mistakenly mark it as a get, no, it is post. Okay, great. Why post? Because if your API is now having post method, you can pass the request parameter or request payload from the body. Okay, from body means this is your body. Here you can pass the request payload in a form of JSON. I wanted to pass three parameters. What three parameters? These three parameters. I wanted to pass course name, .NET full stack development, total fees 15,000, duration in days 30. Okay, sorry, not 30, 90. Okay, so this is my basic payload. I don't want to pass any header. I don't want to pass any authorization token because I do not have that as of now. So how to call this API? Just apply the debugger here. As I told earlier, you will get one error, dependency related. Talento track services, I courses for unresolved the service type, I courses while attempting to activate to this controller. Means when you are calling this courses controller, this controller requires the dependency of iServices class interface, but I'm not able to identify which class need to be instantiated for this interface. This is what the error is. So how we can tell our compiler that whenever someone will ask you for an object of iService class, then create an object of course service class. Okay, iCourse service class, if someone asks, then create an object of course service class. So that we need to register into the program.cs file like this. Here I need to mention iCourse service. Okay, and then whenever someone will ask you an object of iCourse service, then create an object of course service. That's it. Same for this repo. All the repo we will create transient. Why transient? Because repo requires an object of DB context class. Okay, but no. Let's create scope only. That DB context class is a transient only, but iCourse service should not be transient. It should be scoped only. Scope means for every API request, API call, it will create a new object of repository and then it will got destroyed automatically. Okay, transient means always every time whenever it requires a new object, it will create a new object. Okay, it will not reuse any object. And singleton means whenever you require a new object of any service or repository, you will only have one object across the whole life cycle of your application. So any number of requests if you make, all the parallel requests will have the same object in the case of singleton. So we'll use the scope for now. Now we have account service repo. Then we have core service repo. Okay, this was necessary. Why it is necessary? Because in your controller, I want an object of iCourse service. So whenever I will ask for an object of iCourse service, then it will create an object of core service class, which is available into the services project. This is available into the common project, completely different projects. Okay, but this service class inherited from the iCourse service. That's why we can assign this core service object into the iCore service interface object. Okay. So this is your account service. This is your core service. Now let's run the API. It will work. Okay. Now I'm going to the Postman. I have added this course details. Let me attach the debugger so we can debug the API. Okay, it is already attached. Click on the send button. Now you will not get any error. It got attached. If you go to the request object, see what are all parameters we have sent. Duration 90 days, name, total fees, everything is there. Go next. How to go next? F10 button. Now I wanted to go inside create method. So click on F11. Step into and step these two buttons. Okay, this is F10. F10 means, sorry, this is F10. Step over, step into. I wanted to go next line, next line, next line. Here I wanted to go inside this method. So step into. Yes. Okay. Here you can see in the course class object, we have these many field already assigned. Created date we got, created ID we intentionally kept 0, duration in days, ID, name, everything is there. Only ID is 0 because ID is auto incremental. It will get assigned automatically. So next, add, it will get added. This will apply the changes to the database. You will get result true because it returns 1. 1 is greater than 0. It becomes true. If it becomes true, this true will get assigned to our success property from the response class. If we go here, you can see success true. If it is success true, obviously we are returning that to the UI, and if it is true, then UI can show the message course added successfully. Okay, see the database, right click, refresh, right click, select top 1000 row. You can see the record. See, there is one course got created having ID 1, name, total fees, duration in days, created date, updated is null because we haven't updated that record as of now. Then created by ID is 0 because we have set that, and this is also null. So this is how we can make the create API for any entity you want. Okay, I will just stop here and then we'll see the update, delete and get all operation in the next session.